How I stopped feeling insecure in my relationships. So one of the biggest reasons why men get absolutely wrecked in relationships is because they become too attached to the woman they love and they lose themselves. But I used to be this hyper-vigilant, like overly dramatic and serious boyfriend who just went complete batshit crazy when my girlfriend like left me on red, or she didn't hold my hand, or she just pulled her hand away, right? And because I couldn't fucking regulate myself, I did all the things you shouldn't do, and guess what? I got broken up with. Ta-da, what a surprise. So in this video, I'll teach you the 4 exact steps that I took to stop being this insecure shadow of a man and version of myself, and actually became so secure in myself that my girlfriends not only not broke up with me, but actually started to following my lead and become super feminine. Step number 1 is you have to build awareness. The first thing I did was to accept that my relationship issue were like, it was an outcome. It was not the cause. Like when Sarah or Julia or Marie like broke up with me, I was like, bro, one time is like bad luck maybe, but fucking 3 times, that's a fucking pattern, right? And that's when I actually came across a quote. I think it's a Russian proverb, like the world is your mirror basically, and don't blame the mirror for the reflection you don't like. So fundamentally, I realized like you don't have, or I don't have women problems. I have a skill gap that is revealed by women. That for me, like that quote, that mindset shift was a complete game changer for me, because for most of my life, I thought there was something wrong with me as a man, as a human being, because women ghosted me or they broke up with me. So there must be like, maybe I'm not worthy enough, maybe I'm not handsome enough, or maybe I'm ugly, you know? Because I remember at age 14, there was a girl who called me ugly. I'm not ugly, I'm fucking handsome, I know that. But I had this belief, right? So, but that quote that I just shared with you earlier, that quote helped me to stop viewing myself as fucking broken or something that had to be fixed, but more so something like a project that can be improved, that I just lacked skills. And skills can be easily acquired. Why is this so important? Because a lot of men nowadays carry this feeling of like never feeling good enough, right? And I'm sure you can relate. And then they use this wrong approach to work on themselves. I know that like every single client of mine, like they've been working with a therapist, right? Because they thought that like therapy is great, it helps me because there's something broken inside of me. I'm not bashing therapy, by the way. I do believe therapy has its place, but the issue with therapy, especially in the context of men, is that you perpetually yap about what's wrong with you. But you know what that does? Like, it keeps you in this problem mindset of I need to fix myself. I'm not good enough. Rather than actually just, I want to acquire skills. And don't get me wrong, it's great to share your feelings, to relieve yourself of this pressure that you feel, right? Like, but therapy fundamentally neglects the fact that emotions are a call to action. They're not a fucking call to perpetually yap about your feelings. Because if you think about it, man, like when your car gets stuck in the mud, right? You want to know how to fucking get the car out of the mud, right? Like knowing that you feel frustrated in that moment isn't really moving the car, is it? Don't get me wrong, awareness is good, talking about your feelings is good, but you also got to focus on like building the awareness around the skills you're lacking, rather than viewing yourself as something that is fundamentally flawed and fucked. Here are like 3 powerful questions that I use with my clients that do exactly that. And you should write them down, by the way. So what situations instantly make your chest like tightened, or like your mind go like crazy, you know, like with racing thoughts? Her going cold, like being around other guys, you know, or moments you don't feel enough. Second question, around which people do you hold your opinion back? Around which people do you filter yourself? And then the next question is like, what specific moments make you doubt whether you are the guy in a relationship? For example, she's distant, like when she's emotional, when she rejects intimacy, like when she calls you like a name, or when she questions your decisions. Like, what makes you feel like, shit, man, I'm not the guy anymore? Like, knowing all these things, like that will, like, those are the triggers basically, and they will give you basically a map, right, with direction, right? Like, okay, this is where I need to go to. However, you still need motion, right? You still need to move and start going to the destination. And how do you do that? By using the fucking map, right? Okay, aka like the triggers, and then implement step 2 that I'm about to share with you, which is fundamentally recoding that awareness. I'm going to kick this off with like a quote that I recently shared in my men's group, right? Insecurities fundamentally is just a skill gap. It's not a personality flaw, and that builds on what I shared earlier. But when you look closer at the word insecurity, what do you notice? You notice that it derives from in plus security. It means that there is a lack of security in a given situation or given event, right? So insecurity is literally just a lack of internal safety. Again, your body in that moment just starts doing the same shit it does in a fight, right? You get a tight chest, like your heartbeat goes faster and you develop this sort of tunnel vision, right? This is basically called a fight or flight response. And when does your body do that? Like when it believes that there's an external threat that might be capable of eliminating you from the gene pool. And what does this mean? It means your body believes that you might not have the skills to survive the situation. But, and here's where it didn't fucking make sense to me initially. Like, why the fuck am I feeling fight or flight kind of responses around the woman I love? Like, there's literally no physical threat from her. Like, I'm physically way stronger than a woman, like most men are. So what the fuck is going on here? And it's after like obviously some digging, because I'm a little nerd, you know, I noticed that like my body reacted to emotional discomfort the same way it reacted to physical fight, because like, not because I wasn't scared of her, right? But I was scared of feeling overwhelmed, not being able to like keep her attracted, handle the situation basically, right? And that I might not be able to find ever someone like her. And of course, it's true. I will never find a woman just like Sarah, just like Marie, just to do it. But why is that so important? Because I can attract a new woman any day. Like, what is so special about these girls? Again, it clicked for me. Like, and a lot of guys, it might sound like a little woohoo. I was very like skeptical about that as well. But like, these insecurities, you know, of fear of abandonment and, oh shit, I'll never get someone like her, they were a result of my fucked up childhood. Like, I don't want to perpetually yap about my childhood because I've already mentioned a couple of videos ago, or maybe in a previous video, but like, in my specific case, I got abandoned by my parents, right? My mom gave me up for adoption, my grandma raised me instead, right? And also, like, my dad never really told me that he's proud of me. He wasn't really in my life, right? Not in the way that the dad was supposed to be around. And also I hugged my mom, yeah, for the first time I was 22. And that's crazy. So, right, and so no matter how much my grandma loved me, and rest in peace, Agnes, you're causing trouble in heaven, like nothing can ever replace the love of your mom. That is happening on an energetic nervous system level that you can't see, right? And the fun fact here is that like our romantic relationships come closest to the intensity of emotional connection and bonds we experience with our parents. So for me, when Sarah or Marie or Julia like didn't text me back, when they didn't hold my hand, like my system fucking freaked out. When my system freaked out, I did stupid things like bombarding her with text messages, overloading her with reassurance and love that they didn't want or need in that moment. And I know that my story is pretty unique and it might be very different to yours, but maybe we all have our own bag of shit that we carry with us, right? So you can ask yourself basically a couple of questions to figure out like, where does your insecurity come from? Where does your trigger come from? Where does your bag of shit come from, right? When was the first time you ever felt like that trigger came up? Fear of being abandoned, feeling anxious, feeling this tight chest. Then second is, who told you that you are not enough, that you're unsafe, that you're like replaceable, that you're unlovable? Maybe you've been bullied at school for your looks, for being fat, for being weird, for being quiet, or mom or dad never told you that they're proud of you or whatnot, right? Like this is like what a lot of my clients have been going through, right? Or you had like a severe breakup, you got cheated on, or you had childhood experiences that are just like fucking bad, and now you internalize that as that you lack the skills to either trust a woman or keep her attracted or loyal, right? And fundamentally, before we move on to the next step, I want you to really grasp this. Like, insecurity is just a lack of self-trust, a lack of self-belief that you're capable of handling the situation that you're experiencing. AKA, she's going to break up with me. There is going to be a lot of emotional pain. I will not be able to survive this. You will be able to survive it. Your brain is just tricking you into believing that emotional pain is as bad as physical pain or as dangerous. I'm not saying that emotional pain isn't dangerous or it doesn't feel bad, but there's no, let's say, literal threat to your like survival and the reproduction and passing on of your genes. And that leads me also to step number 3, which is fundamentally like, after you figured out where your shit is coming from and what is inside of this bag of shit that you always carry with you, like we need to recode like or reframe a couple of mental models that you have inside of you and that you've associated to whatever has happened to you in the past. We're going to create like a new mental model for you that you're living with right now. So the mental model that refers to all the beliefs that you have, right? That are in the bag of shit. So beliefs are basically, if you've never heard of the word, beliefs are basically stories that you have created or been conditioned with to live with around certain life events. Yeah, and we need to create a belief shift, which we do by auditing our current stories, which you and I have created around past events. Yeah. For example, when my mom abandoned me at birth, for me the story was like, not at that time, but when I was 5-6 years old, that no woman can ever be trusted. They'll always leave me, and that's why I pushed women away. But when I pushed them away, then my fear of abandonment got triggered, and then I became super clingy. Right? And then I pushed them away again. Then I became clingy. And logically, it doesn't make any fucking sense. But again, it's all an emotional response, and that's stored in your nervous system, which we need to target. Or another one is that my dad never told me that he's proud of me, right? So my story was that I need to try harder and harder and harder to be recognized and respected. But again, no amount of money, no amount of the hundreds of women I slept with was ever enough, right? So since the stories that you and I have created around specific events are very unique, I just want to give you a framework that you can use rather than trying to focus on specific stories right now that are too unique to be like potentially relevant for you, right? So you can just use this framework and apply it to your situation, copy paste it, and then you'll get a ton of breakthroughs. So here's the framework we can use to literally reprogram insecurities instead of just understanding it, right? So I want you to grab a journal, or if you prefer, like open a spreadsheet, right? And then create like a simple table, yeah? And I want you to name not the table, but the columns with specific headings. So the first of all is situation trigger. Like, what is a trigger for you? Let's say she didn't hold your hand. Then next column, emotion. What did you feel? Then next column, this old story. What is your interpretation of her not holding your hand? She doesn't love me, for example. Then the next column, what evidence do you have for that story? Well, she doesn't hold my hand lately. Okay. What evidence do you have against that story? Again, new column. Okay, but actually she cooks my meals. She's always very loving. It's just like the hand holding that's not really happening lately. And then you list down all the fucking stories or evidence that you have against the story that you had initially created. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to weigh up these things. And then in the new column, you state new story. This is actually what's true. And this is the truth. That is going to be rewiring or replacing the old story that you have about the situation of her not holding the hand being negative into something more positive. Like, maybe that is not her love language. Maybe that's not how she expresses love. And then you have another column, new action, right? How I'll respond to it next time. Then you can use another column as a reminder. You call the column reminder and call it, okay, like one sentence I repeat to myself every time the old story kicks in. For example, what would Hercules do right now? Hercules being the ideal version of yourself. So I use this every time with my clients, and I've used this kind of approach for like 10 years now. It's fucking beautiful, man. Like, I barely have negative thoughts anymore, right? It's beautiful. And of course, initially I struggled with it and just changing my beliefs, because why? Sometimes when you have a feeling, you cannot outthink that feeling because the feeling is here, thinking is here. So because feelings are like only psychological, we can also use something else, right? And I'm going to give you a cheat code to rewire those feelings. Because again, thinking happens in the brain, feeling happens in the heart. But let me add a bit more structure to this. So the two most powerful ways to sort of regulate yourself in moments where like you feel like a bit overwhelmed is you can either prevent this or you can be responsive, right? So you can, let me say, like, you can simply try to extinguish a fire, or you can take practical steps to prevent that fire from happening in the first place. So if we focus on prevention first. So there's a specific area in body that is responsible for triggering, let's say, the feeling of like anxiety, insecurity, and panic, right? That area in your body is called your nervous system. And the way you minimize this potential wildfire inside of you, right, in this metaphorical sense, is to reduce the burden on the nervous system. Like, think of your nervous system as like a bucket, right? And every situation that stresses you fills water into that bucket. Now, if you don't empty that bucket once in a while, like, then the fucking water, like the bucket, will overflow, right? And obviously I'm going to teach you now how to fucking empty the fucking bucket now. So I do this every day. only takes 10 minutes. I do 4, 7, 8 box breathing, and it really regulates my nervous system because it puts me into a relaxed state. I work 10 hours a day, 10 to 12, 14 hours, 7 days, 6 days a week. I hit the gym 4 times a week. I have 30 clients at the moment, so I'm under a lot of pressure. And this breathing technique is fundamentally helping me to relax and don't get overwhelmed by the stress or let my bucket overflow, right? And that breathing technique is basically what like every elite athlete like swears by, like Ronaldo and Messi, etc., Tom Brady. It helps them to stay calm under pressure. Like, for example, in this stadium of 80,000 people who hate your guts if you miss the penalty. Yeah? If you pay close attention to what they do before they like shoot the penalties, they take a deep breath. Now let's say there's a situation where you can't prevent the fire, right? And your nervous system completely freaked out. And there's a super powerful technique that helps, which is a 2-step approach. First, breathe in, breathe out. Second step is smile. The moment you start smiling, you release a shit ton of happy-making chemicals in your body that will make you feel instantly relaxed and reduce any panic or anger. We can hijack our physiology to create this illusion of happiness and everything is fine, and give ourselves the feeling of security. When you implement this for like consistent time, you'll feel insanely more relaxed and more secure around the relationships. And that's also when you can finally focus on something that is super like important, or like as important as feeling secure in yourself in relationships, which is also building attraction. Because a lot of guys, it's not really the anxiety or the anxious attachment that kills sort of attraction in relationships, but it's the actions that you take or not take because of that anxious attachment style that fuck up your relationships, which is fundamentally you become unattractive. And the beauty is, like, when you actually start building attraction again, or you start triggering attraction in your girlfriend again, you suddenly do not have to sort of chase anymore, right? Which again also reduces so much pressure on your nervous system because you're the one being pursued. Yeah, so obviously you gotta ask yourself, how do you do that in a relationship? While I'd say that there are various layers to this, right? But in short, I'd say the most attractive thing in a relationship that you can do after becoming obviously the grounded Hercules that I just talked about with the techniques I share with you is to make a woman feel alive. When you think of the typical Hollywood bullshit narration of what women want, it's always lovey-dovey, but like only lovey-dovey. In reality, it's not working. What actually matters is that you give her what she responds best to. I'm not saying lovey-dovey is bad, however, it cannot be the only way to create attraction. And the best way to like build a contrast to this lovey-dovey approach is to create this perpetual illusion of this wild line that she can tame. Because that's one of the deepest, craziest, wildest fantasies every woman has. Now, how do you do that? By flirting, by playfully teasing her and having this mental frame of, I love you, I'm Hercules, I'll conquer the world for you. But you also have to play your part too. If you want to learn like how to master long-term attraction with women and keep her like in this perpetual state of desiring you, right? Without manipulating her, but actually making her feel deeply connected to you and make her feel safe, you can get my book, The Aphrodite Decoder, Color Decoder, that gives you the exact blueprint on how to turn a woman on long-term, how to make her feel safe, and how to build crazy wild desire with you. The link is in the description. Now, coming back to this wild lion fantasy, how do you convey that you're this wild lion who's super charming and super charismatic even after years of being together? One powerful sort of Hercules frame is called playful dominance. So the playful dominance isn't about putting her down, right? But it's more so like keeping things playful, right? Saying things like, or keeping it light, like when she spills something, you could say like, oh, you did that? Oh, what am I going to do with you, troublemaker, tonight, right? Like that is so much more playful than like, oh, are you okay? Do you need help? Right? Obviously, you got to mean it. It's not just a line, right? That's the energy behind it that matters. And for a lot of guys who've never done this, who've never learned how to flirt, this will be a bit weird at the beginning, right? But trust me, this is a game changer for relationships. And if you want to learn how to become the master of charm or charisma in conversation, whether you're single or in a relationship, I suggest that you watch the next video here.